Guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. I hope you guys are staying safe. I hope everything's good wherever you guys are. Guys, smash the like button on this video. Hit the subscribe button. Share the video as always, guys. So, guys, I've had a few people message me, D Murray, my boy. And I've seen a video which has been very concerning to me. I mean, Mr. Saul Canelo Alvarez, has made a very bizarre statement. And I've touched on this before. And I want to expand on this. Canelo Alvarez has openly said that he's not interested in fighting other Mexican fighters. Ooh, and D Murray made a great point. D Murray said, my subscriber D Murray, D's my boy. D's somebody that's been watching my channel for a while. And one thing I like about D is he always keeps it fair. D is a person that I love his takes. And the reason why I like D's takes is because he's probably one of the most fairest people on my channel. And he always makes fair assessments. He criticizes Canelo when he needs to. He also supports Canelo when he knows that Canelo is more decorated than Andrade, and think he takes Canelo's side because he realizes that Canelo is, but he also keeps it real, and he's a proper fan. He's like myself, and that's why I really like D Murray. And there's many of you, Little Penny, there's loads of you, Ray, and all you guys, Steven, all of you guys are pretty good, There are a few biases either way, whether they'll support Canelo through the hills and support whether it's good or bad. But on this one, and everyone knows that I'm a massive Canelo fan, and I get called a Canelo fanboy sometimes. But one thing is with me, I'm true. So when I don't agree with something, I'll say it. Now, Canelo Alvarez saying that he doesn't want to fight other Mexican fighters, I'm not for that. I'm not for that. And I'll tell you why. Firstly, Canelo fought a Mexican fighter, and Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. And D Murray made a great point. D said in one of the comments that I read, and I read all your comments, guys, so don't think sometimes I don't reply back to you that I'm not reading. I read all your comments, so I know what you're saying. D said that it's unfortunate that Canelo has that mindset, because these Mexican fighters, like Zurdo, like Benavidez, they have families and they want to feed their own family. They want to put food on the table, and fighting Canelo would be a massive payday. So the fact that Canelo has that mindset is upsetting, because Canelo's the face of the sport, and whenever someone fights Canelo, they get a massive payday. So people like Zurdo and Benavidez, who worked hard, who worked their way up, they want that opportunity against Canelo as well. They're not looking at it where he's Mexican. I don't know what Canelo's reasons are. I have my feelings and reasons. Look, for me, it's a case where Canelo Alvarez doesn't want any other Mexican fighter to be able to leapfrog themselves into superstardom and potentially replace him as the face of boxing, because that, at the end of the day, if Canelo loses to another Mexican fighter, he's no longer the number one Mexican fighter. Now, you all know how much of an attachment I had with Amir Khan. Amir Khan had the same thing with Kell Brook. Amir Khan was a more recognized name worldwide, and he was seen as someone more accomplished than Kell Brook. Amir Khan didn't want to give Kell Brook that opportunity in case Kell Brook beat him. And that would have meant that Amir Khan would have gone behind Kell Brook, and Amir Khan wouldn't have had the name that he would have had the name. Of course, he still would have got big fights, but, his credibility would have dropped if he had lost to Kell Brook. He would no longer have been seen as the number one guy in around the 140, 147 pound divisions at welterweight. And his credibility would have dropped if he had lost to Kell Brook. So we didn't give Kell Brook that opportunity because he was chasing the big fights. Canelo Alvarez obviously is a different situation, because Canelo Alvarez is that big man. He is the face of boxing. He is the guy that Amir Khan, the likes of Amir Khan, was chasing. Here's the problem I have, is that Canelo is, if he has that mindset, he's depriving other Mexican fighters who are up and coming the opportunity. And also he's depriving the Mexican public, the Mexican fans, of great Mexican wars. Now, imagine if Morales has said, I don't want to fight Barrera because he's Mexican. We would have never got the iconic. And I'm not saying Canelo fighting Benavidez or Canelo fighting Zurdo is by any means anywhere near, Morales and Barrera, because they were some of the most iconic fights in the history of boxing. The Morales and Barrera trilogy is one of the greatest trilogies in the sport. One of the greatest fights. One of the greatest talked about rivalries in the sport of boxing, if you know your boxing. So Mexicans fighting Mexicans, it has a different kind of feel to it. And what's really upsetting is Canelo fought Julio Cesar Chavez. And you know what the sad thing is about Julio Cesar Chavez Jr.? It's not about the fact he's not deserving, he's not this, whatever, because he won a world title, Julio Cesar Chavez. It's the fact that Julio Cesar Chavez came from a rich family. He came from a family where his father was one of the greatest Mexican fighters of all time, one of the greatest fighters of all time. Very wealthy man. And his son was born into wealth. So he didn't even need the money because he had so much wealth. And we all know about Julio Cesar Chavez's problems outside the ring. I mean, he used to do all sorts of stuff. And Canelo gave somebody like that an opportunity, which was an easy payday for him, an easy fight. And it was basically free money to Julio Cesar Chavez. And the problem I have is people like Zurdo and Benavidez who are not in that position financially, who are looking to work their way. You know, Benavidez's dad is not a rich guy, or, you know, Zurdo's dad. You know, these are guys that have had to work their way up. You know, it's a lot harder. They've not had a famous dad to get a leg up like Chavez did. You know, these are guys that have to work their way up. And if Canelo doesn't, as being the face of the boxing, doesn't give these guys an opportunity, when are these guys going to get that big opportunity? Who do they have to fight? I mean, yeah, they can make their own legacies, but Canelo worked hard to get himself into a position what he is. But that, like, in my opinion, forget what Canelo's done or whatever, Canelo shouldn't look at it that they're Mexican. If Canelo really cares about the Mexican fighters, and he has a way that I don't want to fight Mexican fighters, I don't know what reasons behind that, by the way, he should think, no, let me fight them. Let me put food on their table. Let me put food on their table. This is what Mike Tyson said. If he's your friend, then let me put food on his table. Let me help him. If Canelo has a genuine heart, like he's thinking from a heart point of view where he thinks, I don't want to fight Mexican fighters, he's actually not doing them a benefit. He's actually doing them a disservice. Because firstly, them fighting Canelo, they're going to get huge paydays. Secondly, their profile's going to increase. So they're going to get bigger opportunities. See, the only thing I can think of is this. Canelo Alvarez doesn't want any other Mexican fighter to leapfrog from his name if they beat him. Because if Canelo Alvarez loses to Zurdo Ramirez, just say, and by the way, I don't think Benavidez or Zurdo beat Canelo Alvarez, so I don't think Canelo's got anything to worry about. But if they do beat him, just say, suppose they do, Canelo Alvarez will now no longer be seen as the number one Mexican fighter in the world. Could Canelo Alvarez live with that? Would Canelo Alvarez be able to live that down if some other Mexican fighter beats him? Because he would no longer be seen as the number one. But this narrative doesn't make sense because Canelo Alvarez fought Julio Cesar Chavez. Now, I know some of you who are massive Canelo fans are probably going to have a reason and probably going to know some of the things that Canelo said. But I just want to put this out there. Whatever the reason, it's not valid. I mean, irrespective whether it's the fact that he doesn't want to fight any Mexican fighters because he doesn't want to hurt them, or he doesn't want to fight any Mexican fighters out of respect, it's not I mean, there's no valid excuse for it. Because at the end of the day, let's be honest, if you're a true Mexican fan, you want to see Mexicans fight Mexicans because that's what makes rivalry. Like I said, Morales and Barrera are two of the biggest, best rivalries in the sport of boxing. I mean, that trilogy was the best trilogy. So Canelo coming out with that is bizarre. It doesn't make any sense. And he's, like I said, he's depriving other Mexican fighters. And what's fair is fair. Just look, we're boxing fans. We're not fanboys, we're boxing fans. Remember that. When someone's wrong, they're wrong. And remember that. We're not fanboys of Canelo. We like Canelo. We all like Canelo because Canelo's done a lot for the sport. But when someone says something which we don't agree with, we don't agree with it. And we should look at the sport as fans because, like I said to you, people like Zurdo deserve an opportunity. People like Benavidez deserve an opportunity. Some of you actually said on my channel, just the other day when I put up a Canelo Benavidez video, you guys were saying, oh, if I want Canelo to fight Benavidez. If Canelo don't fight Benavidez, I won't be happy with him. Well, on what he's saying, he's not going to fight any Mexican fighter, which is bizarre. I mean, what's background got to do with anything? Why wouldn't you want to fight someone? I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense. The only thing I can think of is he doesn't want any Mexican fighter to beat him, so they use his name to leapfrog and become a star. And then he's no longer is the number one Mexican fighter. That's the only logical excuse I can think of. Maybe you guys have a better reason why. But whatever the reason is, it is not a reason. I mean, that's not a reason. Whatever the reason, it's not valid. I mean, fighters should be fighting whoever, whether they're Mexican, isn't it? Look, when Khan fought Kell Brook, both guys were washed up. look how big the fight was. Especially in the UK, look how big the fight was. Why? Because it was a domestic rivalry. The same with Mexicans. When Mexicans fight each other, there's a domestic rivalry there. That makes the fight even bigger. That makes the fight like Canelo Zurdo. If Zurdo wasn't Mexican, isn't that big a fight. You know, isn't that big of what makes that fight big is the fact that they're both Mexican heritage. They're both from Mexican background. That's what makes that fight huge. Canelo Benavidez, the same. Even though I know Benavidez is Honduras or whatever, but he's Mexican as well. I mean, that's what makes that fight big. Do you understand where I'm coming from? That's what makes those fights big. The reason why Canelo Benavidez will be massive, not just the fact that it's an intriguing matchup, it's the fact that they're both Mexican fighters as well. That makes the fight interesting. It makes it intriguing. You see, we want to see stuff like that. I'm not even Mexican, but I would be up for that. And I would be all into the rivalry and the background. I would be all into that. And we should all, push for that. We should all push for if Zurdo beats Bivol, you telling me you don't want to see Canelo fight Zurdo? I mean, come on. Why wouldn't we want to see Canelo fight Zurdo? I mean, that's a brilliant fight. If Zurdo beats Bivol, that's a massive fight. And Canelo's going to say, well, I'm not going to fight Zurdo because he's Mexican. I mean, that's bizarre, isn't it? Like, don't you think that's bizarre? I think that's bizarre. I think that's weird. Because that's what would make that fight even bigger. I mean, the fact that they're two Mexicans. Imagine Canelo competing for the light heavyweight championship against Zurdo. That would be massive. So it wouldn't make any sense for Canelo to say, oh, well, he's Mexican, so I don't want to fight him. I mean, firstly, if you feel that way about Mexican fighters and you have respect, and out of respect you don't want to fight them, you're depriving them of that opportunity. Secondly, they want to put food on their table as well. I mean, you're the biggest star in the sport. By you giving them an opportunity, they're increasing their profile. So even if they lose to you, they become a bigger star as a result of it. I mean, how many fighters like Caleb Plant? Look at his profile. Now he's gonna come back. He's made a ton load of money against Canelo, and now he's gonna benefit from his future career in the sport, where he's gonna benefit from a higher profile, which means he's gonna be able to generate more money even in against guys that are not that big names, because he's now become a relevant name in the sport after the promotion of the Canelo fight. He's benefited from it. So this is what I'm trying to say. Like, I think that obviously by Canelo not fighting other Mexican fighters, he's doing them a disservice. But is there a reason of fear there that if he loses to a Mexican fighter, that they may leapfrog me? I don't know. Leave your thoughts. Let me know what your thoughts. I want to know your opinions in this. Make sure you smash the like button, and make sure you leave a comment in the comment section, because I want to know your opinions. I want to know why. Why does Canelo not want to fight Mexican fighters? Give me the reasons why. Maybe there's something culturally. I don't know. That's why I'm asking you why, because Canelo did fight Julio Cesar Chavez. Let me know, because, there's sometimes I'm not aware of everything. This is why I say, if you know something that I don't know, please tell me. Please tell me. Let me know. And I'll see, I'll see what you guys have to say, and then I'll give my opinion. Leave your thoughts, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.